Dr. Jürgen Meyerhoff, Technische University, Berlin, Germany. Yes, he just could not join here us, but we are waiting for you for your talk. We can hear him very well. Yes? Okay. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Well then, I'm sorry that I couldn't make it, but I hope I can do my presentation this way and you will get the main ideas. So the topic is using stated or revealed choices for eliciting so-called landscape preferences, which means kind of landscapes people might prefer, for example, for recreation or for use of generating renewable energies. The starting point for this is that we assume that choices can indicate the value people derive or utility people derive from, for example, certain landscapes. And one of the assumptions for using choices for this is that people, of course, do have the opportunity to do choices. And you can think, for example, just of doing a choice between different brands of bread, or a choice in the morning or the mode of transportation to get to the university or your working place, for example, or any holiday location. And next assumption then that the choices people do are done based on what's best for them or what we then is utility from an opportunity, and that we can further explain their choices by the characteristics of the chosen alternatives. For example, special kind of taste the bread has, or convenience the transportation mode will have. So their choices that tell us something about their preferences and the values of the different options. So then I would move to the next slide. And what we can generally differentiate is between two types of choice information. And the first one is so-called stated preferences, where we ask people directly kind of turn if they would prefer. While the second one is that we can also observe people's choices. For example, in a landscape when they go to a certain place, and that's what we call then revealed preferences. So on the next slide, you can see then, at least I hope, you see a choice set. We have been using a survey about forest biodiversity. It shows people three alternatives of a forest. The second column indicates the opportunity where forest didn't change. And then we have on the right side two programs, program A and B, where people can choose an alternative when the forest or the forest management would be changed and would have different kind of forest in the future. And for these people would have to pay. That's what we call stated choice, where people ask in a survey what kind of alternatives they prefer. So the second approach is then these revealed choices, and you should see on this slide is a map that shows the part of the landscape in Germany, and there are two locations indicated. One's the place of residence where people live, and the other one is a visited forest. So we can, just by observing or asking people where they have been, find out which forest they have visited, and can use this as an indication for their choice and their value. However, that's something I'll show you later, is that the problem with this is that we do not know what the alternatives for people are. So, and in the following of my presentation, I'd like to present, for example, studies we have done where we have used landscapes. And I would like to start with example 1, which is about stated preferences. So this was about renewable energy production in Germany and what type of externalities that of the landscape when you think, for example, about turbines or very large-scale solar panels. Then people might not like that because they disturb the visibility of the landscape, or they ignore it because they are close to their place of residence. And the aim of the survey was to measure what we call landscape externalities of different production sites, all onshore, not offshore, but just onshore land. And externalities were measured using the choice experiment with so-called labeled alternative, which means the alternative had names, wind, solar, and biomass. You will see this soon. And we interviewed for this 2,400 people in Germany. So the label alternatives were described by symbols, as you can see on this slide, and we had wind turbines for the alternative wind, and we had solar panels in the open landscape, indicated by the second symbol. The third alternative was biomass, and the last alternative was that people do not care about the kind of renewable energy built in their surroundings. And at one point we decided in design that we presented people the scenario in a way that changes in the landscape would take place in a 10-kilometer surrounding of their place of residence. So there might be new wind farms, new solar panel farms that build in those landscapes, and we want to know what people think about this or preference they have. To create this choice set, we use the following attributes at their levels, which you should see now on a table. And the first attribute we used was distance, place of residence, for the question whether, for example, a farm is built 600 or 1,600 meters away from people's place of residence, because many studies indicate that this is an important characteristic of renewable energy sites production. The next attribute is called area, and it's that these production sites can be small, medium, or large. The third attribute was the number of sites, which means people can have in this 10-kilometer surrounding 1, 2, 3, or even 5 of these turbines. Then there's an attribute called landscape, which means that a certain percentage of the landscape is used at all for the development of new energy, in a sense to protect the viewscape and to have part of the landscape free of it. Then the second last attribute is called grid, which is quite important here in the discussion about renewable energy in Germany, because the question is how to transfer the generated electricity to consumers, and transmission lines can then be overhead or underground, and while many people would like to see underground because they feel disturbed, so that's the reason why we decided to have these attributes in our choice experiment. And then of course there's the cost factor that's indicating how much people would have to pay as a change in their energy bill by month in order to get an alternative. And how a choice set looked like is something you can see on this slide. As I already said, we have the 4 labeled alternatives: wind, bio, solar, and the last one, don't care. Each of the alternatives is then described by levels for different attributes I just introduced to you. And these alternatives are generated by experimental design technique, so that we are in the end able to estimate choice models. Models would indicate us how important the attributes are and what people's preferences are. Something we can derive from this. In this survey, each of the respondents had to respond to 6 of these choice sets, which were presented in a random order to people. So this on the next slide should more or less the same. It's just to say how it looked in the survey, the way people saw it in that online survey, because the former slide was just translation. And then on the next slide, you should see 2 maps from Germany. On the left side, we have the people that responded and using a map indicated their place of residence. And on the right side, you can see the number of turbines that were present at that time in Germany. So it's around 23,000 turbines overall in Germany. And one of the objectives was also to analyze whether turbines in surroundings have an impact on their choices. Regarding results, the next slide should show you how often the labeled alternatives were chosen. And clearly on the first place is solar energy, with 40% of the choices going for solar energy, indicating that the people have a strong preference for solar energy, and as we saw in our analysis, it has the lowest value. Then the second one is wind, 27%, followed by bio, 20%, and finally, 11%. So responses to these alternatives don't care. It means that the majority of people still care about what kind of renewable energy they would have in their surroundings. So then the final slide for this first example is showing results of regression analysis, where we try to find out how the changes in the aggregate levels influence people's willingness to pay. As you can see in this highlighted column, we have the willingness to pay, people willing to pay per month as a third part of their energy bill. And what you can see in the first row, for example, is people are willing close to €7 per month to move turbines further away. That's the amount of money they would pay for each kilometer the turbine is further away from the list. And then the next row shows that for solar, clearly a much lower value, is close to €3 per kilometer. Then for biomass, people have a stronger preference for moving them away from their place of residence with €4.5. Regarding small sites, people prefer it, as we see, with €5 and a positive sign, so that we would pay for having smaller wind farms, for example, instead of large one. Presented in the next row, where it has a negative value for the willingness to pay. So actually that means people might have to be compensated to accept large wind farms, as around. The number of sites is also negative, meaning that the people would have prefer to have less sites. And landscape then is negative, meaning that the people give each percentage of the landscape for renewable energy. And finally, we have again strong willingness to pay for having transmission lines underground on 75 euros per month, indicating that people have strong preference for protecting their viewsheds and landscape from other transmission lines. So then I would like to move to the second example, which is about the revealed preference, which means in this case preferences for forest visits. And forest recreation, I guess that's probably the same in your country. For Germany is covered by one-third by forests. So people like to go there. We have quite a couple of studies showing how important it is, but so far there was no study showing how important forest recreation is close to people's place of residence, close to people's home. So we then did analysis to find out what kind of forest people prefer. So the next slide is about nationwide survey. So the basic idea was that in an online interview, we will ask people about a large forest visit close to their place of residence. It was described as some maximum time people spend in the forest, 3 hours, or of course then half a day to indicate that we are not interested in remote forests, but those close to their place of residence. We also provide people in this survey a mapping tool where they could indicate the location of the forest they have visited, which allows us then to do the spatially explicit analysis by using GIS data that we can derive, for example, from marine land cover data. And what you should see on this slide now, this mapping tool we were using, again, shows part of Germany. That was the landscape you could see based on OpenStreetMap, and they were then asked to indicate, among other things, their place of residence and also the forests they had visited the last for that interview. So the problem compared to the first example is that using this kind of technique where we observe location people might visit, we do not really know what their alternatives are. So what are the other forests they might consider when they want to go to the forest? Because when we use this stated approach, I showed the first example, we create a choice set, exactly what the alternatives are, but it's not the case, we just observe a visited location. So then the option we have is to ask, which might be difficult because they are not completely aware of all their alternatives, or it might at least take a lot of time to just ask them in an interview to indicate all alternatives, so that this second option work with some kind of assumptions that we actually did in our survey. And that's what I want to show you now. On the left side, you see the number of interviews where people indicated their place of residence, or the red dots. And on the left side, you can see the number of forest locations people have indicated on the map. And overall, the distribution dots follows quite well the population distribution in Germany. So when we combine these two maps and zoom into them, we can then see a more detailed view on the landscape. What you see is different types of forest, the information from Korean land cover, and we indicated with a red dot the place of residence that people gave us in the interview, and then there should be a black box which indicates where people have been to the forest, so that we do have these two information. The problem is then again that we do not know when people live at a certain place what alternatives they have in mind when deciding to a forest. That means working with assumptions, data first would just draw a circle around each respondent's place of residence, and it's indicated by the two pictures you should see now. So we have created these 4,300 with surrounding, and the idea behind is that we want to get the information about the land use in people's surrounding. So that when we then look closer into one of these circles, which you should now see on this slide, we additionally, these 10 kilometers around, use the grid of 1 square kilometer size, so that we have for Germany a lot of these small grid cells, and each of these grid cells indicates alternative. What we then did is in this red circle, which indicates these 10 kilometers surrounding, use all of the grid cells and use them as one alternative. What we distantly to the place of residence that's marked by the red arrow, know is the place people have visited, which is indicated by the blue arrow. And for each of these cells, as already said, we then went to Korean data and analyzed the share of uses, the part of these grid cells, assuming that all these alternatives, or all the grid cells are an alternative people might have went to when they are deciding for visit in the landscape in the forest close to their place of visit. So the next slide should then show you the different types of information we received from the GIS analysis. The first thing is distance from home, which is in kilometers. So we calculated for each of these close to 50 grid cells the distance from a respondent's place of residence in kilometers, and we'll go further down. For example, we calculated the share of broadleaf forest or coniferous forest, the share of arable pastures, and also whether there are water bodies present, for example, or as you can see in the last row, the number of bird species that might be present. That's an indicator used by the German Agency for Nature Protection to judge whether forests are in good shape, for example, because the assumption is that when the forest bird species is present, the habitat is of good quality and developed. So what we then, my last slide did is again use a regression technique to analyze the influence of these different land uses, the characteristics of each of these cells. And what you can see from this regression is that, for example, the distance indicated in the first row is a very strong importance for the choice of the forest. So it's a negative sign, the very high T value. This indicates that the further forests or cells we created are away from people's place of residence, the less likely that people will go to that place. However, this changes, as you can see in the second row, when people went by car, because here we have interaction effect saying that negative effect of distance is not that strong when people went by car, which makes sense, but we'll then get to that forest. The other way around, when people would buy food directly starting at their place of residence, we have negative sign, again, distance is more than on average for the whole sample, and also for those people who did a large number of visits, distance is more important, indicated by the fourth row. So, other things that might be important is that the different types of forests, starting with broadleaf, coniferous, and mixed forests, have all a positive impact on those choices. However, when you look at the coniferous row, you can see that coefficient is a bit smaller, saying if coniferous forests might not be that attractive, the broadleaf forest, which goes in line with what you would expect. And to pick up another characteristic, forest birds, for example, we see that grid cells, where more of these forest birds we use as an indicator for good quality are present, more likely it is that people will choose alternative for a forest visit in their 10 kilometers surrounding or close to their home residence. And in last place, what we also expect, more arable land is in the south, the less likely is this will be chosen. So, then already at the end of my presentation, I see two stay in the 20 minutes. I leave the conclusions to you, whether it's useful to elicit preferences for people's preferences for landscapes and the space that they want to recreate. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, if people do have questions, they can also send me an email. I'm happy to respond. Okay, thank you very much.